Welcome back, videographers. We are almost done with our series in video number 8. In this one, we're going to be talking about effects and transitions. Let's go. All right, before we get going, just a little word about these things. When we get into this, you'll see there are tons and tons of effects and tons of transitions. We're not going to go over in detail each one of these. That would just take way too long. What we're going to do is we're going to touch on them and show you how you can apply them and basically how you can get in and modify them. Then it will be up to you to, at your leisure, go through and explore and find ones that work for you and ones that you like. So let's take a look at what we have here in software and get going. Okay, we are looking at the project we did in the last video, the one with the flowers and this picture-in-picture. And when looking at this, I decided that I did not like the way it looked with this bright orange background. So I think it kind of takes away from the images of these two picture-in-picture. So what I want to do is I want to put an effect on these. There's a couple ways I can do it, but what I'm going to do is an effect for the case of this video. If you look over here on the right-hand side, you see this button that will show or hide the effects browser, and right next to it is the one that will show or hide the transition browser. So if I click on this, it shows all the effects that I have. What I want to do is I want to put an effect over this clip right there. So as I said, there's a bazillion of them here. Let me just grab one that I think would be interesting. We'll grab Colorize here. Now, if you want, this is a handy thing to do, to preview any clip, what it will look like with an effect. Select that clip, mouse over it, wait just a second, and now I will see what it looks like with that effect on it. So if I want to do color, I don't want to do color. If I want to do a combat, it pulls all that color out. Or if I want to do cold steel, mouse over for just a second, and then it will show me. To apply a clip, the easiest thing to do is you just click on it, drag it over where you want it to go, and let go. Now that effect is on this clip. If I want to see that, I need to bring up my inspector. Again, with this selected and with this video clip selected, I can see right here is Colorize. Every clip has its own set of parameters that I can modify. Every one of them is different. In this case, obviously, I can put two different colors over this dark maroon and this lighter red, and I can also see the intensity that it will be applied. So for example, if I drag it down the whole way, it's applying none of the effect, so that's 0 or up to 100%. It's obviously the maximum amount. Somewhere in between is what I want to do. So for the sake of this, we'll go a little bit darker like that, pretty high. So now I can see, if I mouse over this, it is darker and my text and my videos stand out a whole lot more. That's all there is to putting an effect on there. As you'll see, if I come up here, I can put keyframes in it. So for example, maybe I have a clip going and I want it to start out with a sepia tone effect, and over time I want that to basically go away. So I can put in keyframes, have it 100% and have it down to 0 over time. I can do that with any one of these anywhere I see a keyframe. So you can add those just like keyframes in any other way. I can have also more than one effect applied to it. So let's just find something else in here. Let's put a distortion. As you can see, there are different categories you can select. So if I pick a distortion, it will distort how the picture looks. Maybe for some reason, I want that glass block on there as well. If I click and drag it, now you'll see they are both on here. There is a checkbox in front of every one of these. I can turn it on or off to see what it's like with or without it. I can also do this for effects, and it will enable or disable all of them, just like that. So my center blocks, I can just scale how big those blocks are. Maybe I want them to be a little bit larger. Vignette blur, so it puts a vignette on the screens, on the edge of my screen. Various things you can do. Another thing you'll need to note is the order that they are in this list is the order that they will be applied. Same thing with audio effects. So colorizing will happen first, and then it will do glass blocks. Sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't, but just make sure you're aware of that. So that is how I can put effects on any clip. I could apply them to these guys as well. I can have as many as I want on it, and I can put them in any order. Those are video effects. There are also effects that I can do with audio. You see right here, lists audio. A lot of these have to do with equalization or levels, or I can do modulation. I can make it put a chorus on it. I can do voice effect, and I'm going to show you one effect that I put on every single video that I make. There is one called voiceover enhancement. it has actually 3 different things in it at once. And I'm not doing any voiceover work here, but I can put it on here just so you can see how it will be. So when I put that on there, it is just, if I will look at it the same way, I click on the clip. Since it's audio, I have to select the audio portion of my inspector, and you'll see right here is voiceover enhancement. As you can see, it has 3 different parts: a compressor, a de-esser, and a channel IQ. In this video, I'm not going to go over exactly what a compressor is, what channel equalization or de-esser does. Those are each subject of an entire video themselves. Let's just say for the sake of this, what the compressor does is it makes your really louds lower and controls them more so that your audio levels are not so wide. So super loud or super low, it kind of squeezes it all into the middle to even it out. I click on this right here. It shows me the settings for my compressor. And if I was playing audio, you'd see this meter bouncing up and down. The channel EQ is an equalizer. What the equalizer does is it shows it shows the audio represented across the various frequencies. So down at the bottom is the lowest frequencies, the low sounds. Across the high top is the highest sounds, the highest frequencies. It knows right here in the middle is the sweet spot for the human voice. Male, in this case, I have selected. If this was a female voice, I would select female voice because obviously the voices have a different timbre. Men's are lower, women are higher. So it sweetens the voice. It gets rid of the low end just in case they're really low end rumble. It can affect your sound. Even if you don't hear it, it will be affecting and interacting with all the audio that's happening. So I always use voice-over enhancement, and I tweak it a little bit. So do your own research to find out what a compressor does, how you can tweak it, what the channel equalization does, and if you need to have a de-esser. Obviously, by what its name is, it pulls out if you have a very sibilant voice where there's a lot of a whistle or a strong S. It can smooth that out. So that is how you work with the audio effects or video effects in Final Cut Pro. Super easy, super straightforward. There's a ton of them. I would encourage you to look through them, to figure them out, to get to know them. You can have a lot of fun with them. The other thing we're going to talk about in this video is transitions. How you get from one clip like this one to the next one like that one. The most common transitions you will use as a videographer are cut and dissolve. Actually, that's pretty much all you will use if you're making professional videos. Unless your name is George Lucas, you won't see anything else. That said, there are a ton of them in here. All my transitions, all different kinds of transitions. If I want to preview one, I mouse over them and move left to right, I can see what that transition will be like. Say I wanted a 360-degree divide between this and this. To put it in place, all I have to do is click and drag, and it is there. Now it will do a transition between these two. I'll just go frame by frame. You can see how that transition happens. You see the one in the background, and then it will go to the other one. And there's the other one. So I don't use that transition. Maybe we want a 3D rectangle. You can have fun with these, especially if you're doing like home videos or things like that. Going from one transition to another. I'll get rid of that. The most common one will be like a cross dissolve. Here's a cross dissolve. Obviously, the one clip fades out while the other clip fades in. We're seeing those two picture-in-picture come on because they are separate clips. They're not as included as a part of this cross dissolve. I could put a cross dissolve on the beginning of these guys as well, and you would see that, well, okay, so it's not going to let me. I'll explain to you why it won't let me in just a second. So, cross dissolve will dissolve between the two. Something you need to know about this. Let me get rid of that. You'll see right here is the end of one clip and the beginning of another clip. When I put a cross dissolve on it, you see it extends beyond the beginning of the second clip and beyond the end of the first clip. To do this, even though my transition right here, or it stops from one clip to the next right here, it will take footage from this first clip and use footage coming past the end of it to do the cross dissolve. Because what happens is it starts right here, and when I get halfway through, I can still see that first clip because it is dissolving out. And it will continue to do that over the entire course of this cross dissolve. So to be able to do a cross dissolve like this, My edit point is here. So to be able to do a cross dissolve like this, my point of transition is right here, but I need extra footage from my first clip to extend for the full time of the cross dissolve, and I need footage from the second clip to extend longer than or past the end of the first clip. So if you do not have enough footage extra at the beginning or the end of one of these clips and try to put in a transition, it will come up and crab at you and say, hey, you don't have enough extra footage here to do the cross dissolve, and it will try to adjust where that is. So be aware if that happens, that's why. Let me grab another one. Let's try a cube. There we go. Here's a cube transition, a three-dimensional one. You can adjust the length of these transitions. They by default have in mind a default length of 1 second, which is 30 frames. Well, it's dependent on your project. If your project is set to 60 frames per second, that will be 60 frames. What I can do is I can manually drag these to change the length, or I can punch in a number to do it. You'll look, let me just get rid of some of this so we can see a little bit better. The length of this clip, you can see, is from here to here. If I move my mouse to the end of this, I see my bracket with the two arrows. You'll notice up in the top corner here, on the left and right, if I move up over that, my pointer gets that little film strip over it. That will do something different. Make sure you know where you're clicking before you do that. If I'm down here and I drag, it will change the length of my transition. You'll notice the left hand, up here on the clock, there was a left hand clock showing me the length of the transition at this point. The right hand time code shows me how much it has changed. So I have changed it by 8 frames, and as I go, it changes more and more. So you can see by default, it is at 1 second. That is an easy way to do it. Just click and drag. Boom. If I want to be more precise and adjust it, I click on it to select so that yellow box is around it, and then I press Control D. When I press Control D, you'll notice right up here comes a time code. That tells me how long my transition currently is. Right now it's at 1 second. So say I wanted it to be 2 seconds, I would type 200, 2 seconds, hit enter. Now my transition is 2 seconds long. Undo that. If I want it less than a second, I'll hit Control D. We get that clock up there. If I type in 30, hit enter, it goes to half a second. That is because my project is set to 60 frames per second. If my project was set to 30 frames per second, then 30 would automatically see it as 1 second. So that's why it's important to know how long your project is in terms of frames per second. So those are the two ways you can modify the length of your transition. Getting back to these little double bars on the top of the transition image. Let me get so we can see a little bit more. All right. If I mouse up to here, where I see that little film strip, I am not going to be changing the length of my transition. I'm going to be changing the length of the clip. So let me show you. If I am on the left-hand side of this and I click and drag to the left, like so, you will see I am shortening the clip. So I'm changing where the length of that clip, where the transition starts. I will undo that. If I go to the other side, so if I click on the left-hand side and drag to the right or left, it will be changing the following clip. So that's important to know. Where you are clicking when you are dragging will affect, maybe down here it'll affect your transition, and if you click up here, it will affect where your clip begins or ends. If I am zoomed out to a point where I can no longer see those little bars at the top, and I click and drag, it will just do the length of the transition. You will not be able to change the length of your clip there. You have to zoom in a little more till you can get those double bars. Also, with transitions, like with the effects, if I click on a transition, I can see up in my inspector there are certain parameters I can change. Since this is a spin, I can control the direction of my spin, left, right, up, or down, and different parameters if outside of the cube or inside of the cube. Let me get over the middle of that. So if I change that to up, you'll see it's now spinning the cube up, and from inside to outside, it's just how it spins it. So every single transition will have its own set of parameters. Some of them are really basic. Some of them, maybe not anything you change. Some of them are more complicated. So that will be just something you have to experiment with. Select a transition, apply it, click on it, look at it in the inspector to see what you can change. All right, that's it for the video on transitions and effects. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. Please remember to click on like. That helps me out. If you would like to see more of my videos or know when I'm online or things have been updated, you can click on follow. If you'd rather not do that, that is no problem. Don't worry about that. I hope this video was helpful and I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to share it with others. That also will help me out. All right, until the next one, video number 9, the last one in the series. We'll catch up with you then. I am out.